welcome back. For those who are returning, welcome back. For those that are new, my name is Bradley. I run the channel Books with Espresso. Just a guy who really loves science fiction, fantasy, any speculative fiction, and has an opinion. So, and also obviously loves coffee. Today's video is going to be a bit of a shorter one, hopefully in comparison to my first video, the Wind and Truth vlog. If you haven't seen that, please go watch it. It was a lot of fun to do. I will have a review out at some point once I get around to finishing it, but unfortunately that book has been interesting, to say the least. Clearly other people have the same thoughts, so whatever. Or like my last video, which was a 24-hour reading challenge. If you haven't seen that, that was a lot of fun to film as well. Please go check it out right after you finish watching this video. But today what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over the books that I got in January. Yes, we're like halfway through February, but I guess better late than never. And I got a decent amount of books, so I didn't want to like not show what I ended up getting. So first we've got to kind of break this up into two different parts. It'll be books that I purchased from a Barnes & Noble trip that my wife and I took when we went to go look at the new Barnes & Noble that opened up in Georgetown. I wish I had some footage of it, but it was kind of a little crowded at the time, and I didn't really have like the capabilities to record it as well as I am now with my brand new camera. If you can't tell, the quality is much better. Love it. Sorry if the audio is not great. I'm still waiting on a microphone to come in, so I'm just using the audio or the microphone from the camera directly. So we'll go over the books that I got at the Barnes & Noble first, and then we'll take a look at the books that I got from the Broken Binding, the only subscription I support at the moment. So I've got a couple of things that did come in over the month of January. I think one might have came in December, but I believe they all almost came in January. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first two books that I'm going to introduce are going to be books that were part of my 24-hour reading vlog. One that I did finish and one that I did not. So we'll start with the one that I did not because it's going to be part of another video that I'm going to be doing, which is a unhaul video. Can't get all these books onto my shelves with the limited amount of space that I have without getting rid of a lot of other books. So we're going to get a bit of a double whammy with an unhaul and a haul. So without further stalling, the first book that I got and picked up is Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. This seemed like such an interesting concept to me when I first picked it up at the store. It is a classic science fiction novel that explores the idea of living planets, of the possibility that planets can affect you psychologically and you can experience what may be two cognitive minds intersecting with each other, causing hallucinations, or it could also be that the planet is creating a new reality. It sounded super interesting, but I tend to have an issue with classic science fiction, whereas the characters are bland, and I truly, in my 24-hour reading challenge, I truly tried. I got about 30 pages in and I started to fall asleep. Not a great sign. So I'm going to actually get rid of this book. I will either sell it on Pango for someone who is really going to be interested in it, or I'll be taking it to my used bookstore and trading it in to them so that someone else can love this book. It's just not for me. I probably won't try another classic science fiction unless it's something that just has a bit more interesting character work. But for the people who love this book, I'm sorry. For the people who don't, welcome to the club. So that's the first one. The next book that I did get that was also featured in that vlog is Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. This was the first book that I ended up reading in that challenge, and I fell in love with it. It is such a wonderful piece of literature that, honestly, while it may not have the best prose, while it may not have the most unique ideas, it was such just a fun ride. The One thing that I did gripe about it was that I wasn't a big fan of the romance in this, just because it felt a bit rushed for this book. But honestly, for something that's roughly around 300 pages, it felt like it was way longer than that. Not because it drug on, but because there was just so much packed in here. But from page 1 to page whatever it ended on, I really loved it. For those that don't know, this book is a world that is surrounded by gods. This can be gods that we are more used to, gods of weather, such as like god of winds, the god of fire, the god of the ocean. But we also see smaller gods here, like the god of broken sandals. Anything that people worship for or pray to can manifest a god. And in this story, we follow our main character, who has been selected or has been trained to be a god killer, because in this world, gods have been banned from being worshipped. So we see this god killer going through her life while trying to figure out a mystery as to why this young noble has approached her in seeking help to separate her from a god that she has been bound to for several years. She's unsure where this god came from or why she's bound to it, but there's something going on, and at the heart of this mystery is a tie into not just these two characters, but two royals. So very fun, very much a book that is unlikely group, unlikely heroes. So if that's something that's really cool to you, go ahead and pick this up. I'm definitely going to be picking up book 2 and book 3 when they come out. So didn't want to do that when I went to the bookstore originally, just in case I didn't enjoy this. But because I did, time to pick up the next one this month. The next 2 books that I picked up mostly because I already have the first one. I haven't gotten around to it, but I have been very interested in getting to reading it, and it may be on my TBR at some point this year. It may not, just depending on how much I can get through for my priority reads. But this will be books 2 and 3 in Chronicles of the Wolf Queen, or the original title, Chronicles of the Bitch Queen. It's, from all I know, this is a Filipino author, possibly Filipino-inspired fantasy, which is very interesting to me. The covers really got me the first time when I bought book 1, and so I figured, you know what, this is a series that I am definitely going to be reading, and most likely finishing, because I've heard nothing but fantastic things. So unfortunately, I don't have a fucking clue what this series is about, other than what I've already told you. So I would like to go in blind with this. If you have read it, please let me know. Like, did you enjoy it? What were some things that maybe you didn't enjoy, without getting too spoilery? Because again, I would love to go in blind with this series and really just enjoy it from book 1 to book 3. The next book that I did pick up is Gods of the Wyrdwood by R.J. Baker. I picked this up on a whim, mostly because I do have another series by R.J. Baker on my, I believe I do have the physical books, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But I've heard nothing but great things about that series, and I've heard this is absolutely fantastic. I saw that book 2 was already out, and I thought that it wouldn't be out until later this year, but because book 2 was already out, and I've heard nothing but fantastic things about this book, and it seems like I might have a thing about books with gods in them, because I believe the last 2 were also that. I decided to just go ahead and grab it. This probably won't get read this year. It depends. Depends on what my reading is like. It probably won't, but never say never. I'll go ahead and read a little bit of the back, just so that you're not getting, hey, I don't know what this book is about, but I bought it the entire time. So it's as follows. Kahan, or Kahan, is known as the Forester, a man capable of navigating the dangerous forest of Krua like no one else. But once he was more. Once he was a warrior. Udini serves the goddess of the lost, a keeper of the small and helpless. When Udini needs to venture into the Wyrdwood to find a missing child, she asks Kahan to be her guide. But in a world where land is one and lost for uncaring gods, where the forest is full of monsters, Kahan will need to choose between his past life and the one he leads now, and his choice will have consequences for the entire world. This oddly sounds I wouldn't say very similar, but it has Godkiller vibes. Possibly with a bit more vegetation as a bit of the magic system. Does seem to be a bit of the center of the book, but it does give me a little bit of Godkiller vibes, so I'm sure I'm going to actually love this. This next book is something that I really just kind of grabbed last minute. The cover is super interesting. Again, another book that I don't really know a whole bunch about, but I did read the excerpt before I picked it up, just because obviously I'm not going to buy a book just because the cover is great. So that is going to be The Cabinet by Unsa Kim. This is a really interesting cover. I kept passing by it in the store thinking, I'm not going to grab that. I don't know what that's about. And then I grabbed it. So this is written by a Korean author. I believe it's I'm not sure, it might be their first translated work. But essentially it seems like the main character is someone who has to deal with all of these folk who are coming in, discussing different issues that they have. Issues that range from being a chameleon to growing trees on your fingers. From what I gather, it's just a really bizarre, fun book. And in a world full of very serious, very dark science fiction and fantasy, because it kind of seems like that's where we've been the last few years, I need something that is going to break up that monotony. I'm going to need something that's going to make me feel not warm and cozy inside, but just fun. So this feels like that kind of book. I will definitely be finding a point in time where I can slot this in, just because with a lot of the series that I do plan on reading, I'm really going to need to just have something to decompress with. So super interesting. Hopefully I enjoy it and I can get a video out for The Cabinet. So we'll see. This next book is one that I've also passed up the opportunity to pick up several times, mostly because I wanted to get the hardcover. It's hard to find the hardcover when you wait way too long after it's been published, so I ended up just picking it up and taking the paperback. It's possible that I'll switch it out for a hardcover if I find one at a used bookstore or something like that, but that's going to be The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi. Again, I just know that this is seafaring fantasy. That's all that I need to know. I did try Shannon Chakraborty's first series, I believe. It's on the back of here. I did try City of Brass, and I wasn't a big fan of it, mostly just because YA tends, and I'm not saying that that series is YA, but YA tends to not really be something for me, and I felt like the language, at least in the first book, I'm sure the writing probably got better over the series, but it just wasn't for me. The language just wasn't really for me. The prose felt a bit more on the younger end of the spectrum for the audience, and so it just didn't take. I'm sure it's a fantastic series. I've heard great things about it, but I wanted to give the author another try, and I've heard fantastic news or things about this series, and I've been wanting to read it ever since I read Tress of the Emerald Sea last year, because I got that seafaring, that pirate feeling, like, and we just don't have enough of that in fantasy. Like, I'm begging that we get more pirate-esque, more seafaring, more of this in our fantasy, just to break up all the samey shit that we have. So, truly excited to get to this. Another book that I'll try and sneak in this year, but there are no promises just because of how packed it's already been. Now, the final book that I got during that trip to Barnes & Noble is one that I was a little surprised that they actually had in stock, just because it's a book that I've only really seen being sold on Amazon. Not that I believe it's now traditionally published, but I don't know if it was prior. And it's a book that I've looked at, a book that I've thought about picking up several times, and I've heard amazing things about it because it's very classical fantasy. And I do love my classical fantasy, but I just didn't give it a chance. But now that book 2 has been released after, I believe it was a long period of time, I decided to pick up Chris Wooding's The Ember Blade. I did hear that there was a little bit of missing the mark on book 2. whatever book one is fantastic. Like, it is an absolute spectacular book when it comes to both world building, character work, and the overall feeling of being in a fantasy world, a classic fantasy world. So this is something that is a big ass chunker that I'm most likely going to be putting on the back burner until next year, and I'll most likely also be picking up book 2, just so I can go ahead and read them all the way through. So super excited about this one for next year, but it's definitely not going to reach my TBR for 2025. Okay, so now that we are done with the Barnes & Noble reads, let's move on into the books that I got from the Broken Binding. The first book that I received in January is from another booktuber. Unless you live on a rock, under a rock, this was a book that was a series that was released from booktuber, I believe about a year, maybe 2 years ago. It sounded interesting, or I shouldn't say sounded. I was very interested in picking it up just to support, but I never ended up doing it. Not physically. I did grab the ebooks when they were on sale, but I wanted to represent this book on my shelves physically, and what better way than the Broken Binding Special Edition that looks absolutely gorgeous. This is absolutely stunning. They killed it for this book. I don't know what the vibes are, but in all honesty, weirdly enough, this is giving cozy vibes, and I know it's not. I know, watching Philip Chase's channel, that this is not going to be giving cozy vibes. This is going to be giving very, very beautiful prose in a most likely true to life, I shouldn't say true to life, most likely very morally gray characters, very morally gray world. But my God, did they make it seem like it is like, sorry for the glare. They're making it seem like it is the most cozy, beautiful fantasy that you've ever picked up and read. Absolutely love the gilded edges as well. I'm glad they went gilded instead of something sprayed, because I feel like it might have been tacky with how beautiful this cover is. But let's show off the dust jacketless portion as well, because that is also beautiful. For those who did not see this before, that's the front, here's the spine, and here's the back. It is very minimal, at least for the front, but I do love it. I think publishers need to do more of this. Do more of this with your special editions. Sprayed edges, they're cool, they're great. Different artwork, it's cool. What I like is being able to show off that my book is dope as fuck without having to have someone either know what it is and know that it's a custom version or a special edition, just by glance. Like, I want to pull this out and people be like, what is this? Please tell me what this is, because it deserves it. Another series that I don't really know a lot about, but I am super excited. I do want to get to this year. Maybe the entire series, just because I do have it all on my Kindle. But I'm just going to hold it over here because that glare is really getting at it. I do want to get to this. We'll see if I can. I want to give Philip Chase a big shout out. Not that it really means much for my small channel, but give him a big shout out and push more people his way, because booktubers being able to release their own stuff to meet a goal of theirs is inspiring. Supporting not smaller creators, but supporting smaller authors is also exciting, being able to see their work and see how it lives up to a hype that we just don't get in traditional publishing. That is what all of this is about. So, super excited. Hopefully I really enjoy this, and hopefully we can get a review out soon when I do finish it. Now, the final books that I was sent from Broken Binding. I'm waiting for these for a very long time. For people who are unaware, Broken Binding has been doing special editions for a while, and over the last year, they acquired the ability to do special editions for one completed series and one almost completed series. I was lucky enough to go ahead and pick up the first batch of this completed series for the first 3. And for those that do know, I am talking about books 1 through 3 of Malazan, Book of the Fallen. They killed it. They blew this out of the park. Since they've released these, I have had my desktop picture be one of the pictures from one of these books. Wish I knew which one it was. I think it is from Deadhouse Gates. Yep. So the inside cover art. This has legitimately just been what I have had on my computer screen for Deadhouse Gates for like the past like 5-6 months. A little bit of background for me is I read Gardens of the Moon, the first book in Malazan Book of the Fallen. I read it a couple of years ago. I really, really loved it, but at the time I didn't want to commit too much to a 10-book series, so I put the entire thing on hold while I tried, and while I talk about this, here's book 1, while I tried to collect the original hardcovers. Just to let you know, the original hardcovers sell for hundreds of dollars per book, and so that just never happened. I got books 1 through 3 and 6. But because of that, sorry, just staring at it right in my fucking face, good job me, this is Deadhouse Gates, but instead of that, I saw that they were doing this and instantly hopped on it. So I can go ahead and have this, Malazan Book of the Fallen, be my priority series for 2026. Sucks that I will have to wait to get through this series, but because it is such a large series, 10 books for the main one, I believe like well over 20 for the entire thing. And here's Memories of Ice. It is going to take a lot of commitment, especially with how obviously chunky these books are. The sprayed edges were also fantastic. I did see that a lot of people unfortunately had some missprays on theirs, so it just didn't really come out right, or some bad shipping. My box came all beat up, and honestly like half of it, also here's the sprayed edges, y'all didn't see it. About half of my packages were opened. I do think that is just a product of international shipping, but they came more or less in good condition with some bent corners, but I'm not too fussed about it. But that is a series that I am putting on the back burner until 2025, or no, sorry, until 2026, because of how big of a commitment it is. But I am super excited to be able to get back into this series. I really, really loved book 1 and going through fan theories and going through threads to make sure that I understood everything that was going on. Not that it's hard to understand, but there's just a lot of, you've been thrown into the world and figure it out. So for those that are unaware, Malazan Book of the Fallen, Malazan in general, is an entire world crafted by Ian C. Elsamont and Stephen Erickson. I believe it was a D&D campaign that they have turned into a book, turned into a literary universe. And the main series is Malazan Book of the Fallen, where we go through the different regions in the Malazan Empire with hundreds of characters and several different plot points that all coalesce into, I believe, one final battle at the end. It's hard to really give a description of this series because there's just so much that goes on, but I believe that this is probably one of the largest series when it comes to world building. It's going to be, for those that have read things like Stormlight Archive, it's going to be on a larger scale than that so far. Just with book 1, I feel like there's way more world building than the entirety of Stormlight Archive, but that's just me. So those are actually all the books that I did get in January. There is going to also be, again, a book unhaul for the next video for all the books that I am getting rid of, so that I can make room on my 2 shelves for all of these books to go onto it. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I would really much appreciate it if you shared it with some of your friends, let them know about me as well, trying to help build a community here, and join the greater book community. We all need the camaraderie after what has happened recently. And so let's build each other up. Let's support each other in the current times of issues that have stricken our community. Again, I want people to feel like this is a safe place for them to come and enjoy and talk about books, about something that we all love. So I'm not going to get all deep into it, but let's just be better as a community, do better as a community for each other, and support each other. So again, if you really liked this video, if you liked me, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't like it, don't like me, please let me know down in the comment section. In the description, I'll also leave each book that I've mentioned down there with links to, I guess, Amazon or what other bookseller that I could put down there. If you have not, please go ahead and watch a couple of my other videos, get acclimated to it. But I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.